take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with.
Joe Rogan just dropped a bombshell so wild it left the View's Sonny Hostin speechless, like actually frozen. And now, Charlie Kirk ain't playing either. He's clapping back with a jaw-dropping $100 million lawsuit against The View. Yeah, you heard that right. $100 million. Daytime TV just flipped from dramatic to straight-up courtroom chaos, and everybody's tuning in for the carnage. Just when we thought morning shows couldn't get more unhinged, with all the celeb feuds, awkward interviews, and political rants, Charlie Kirk went nuclear. Known for stirring the pot, Kirk dialed it way up, launching one of the biggest lawsuits morning TV has ever faced. This ain't just some Twitter beef. This is real deal courtroom smoke. Let's break it down. 100 million ain't just pocket change. That's buy a freaking island and disappear forever money. That's build your own private rocket money. But instead of escaping to paradise, Charlie's throwing all that cash into The View's grill. Why? Because the mess allegedly started with a few too spicy comments on air.
That's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies and
comments that might have slipped past debate and landed in lawsuit territory. What exactly triggered the firestorm? Reports say it wasn't a harmless TV spat or playful roasting. It was deeper, something said on air that might have gone way past shady and into dangerous legal ground. Think less heated convo and more get your lawyers on the line level drama. Now, The View is no stranger to shouting matches. Half the time it sounds like a Thanksgiving dinner with politics on the table. But this time, the yelling might have come with legal consequences. And guess who's caught in the crosshairs? Sonny Hostin. Usually, she's the legal brain of the group.
They needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, a 200?
Throwing around courtroom logic like it's trivia night. But now, she's at the center of the controversy, and not in a good way. Critics are accusing Sonny of stepping way out of bounds. Instead of breaking down the legal facts, some are saying she got too reckless, too bold, and way too confident with her words. The spotlight's burning hot now, and she's feeling it from all sides. But here's where it gets even crazier. Joe Rogan jumped into the mix. Yup, the podcast legend himself, known for speaking his mind with zero filter, weighed in with that signature blend of brutal truth and savage humor. And let's just say, he did not hold back. Instead of playing it safe, Rogan came in swinging. He torched The View for how they handled the drama, and his takedown had the internet in a frenzy. Sarcastic jabs, sharp analysis, and classic Rogan-style mockery lit up the timeline.
between right and left authoritarianism. And now people don't recognize that if you just stop looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, right, whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right. And now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing. And I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side. We're on the right side. And if it's our side that's saying this, for sure, that's the right thing to do. And no one's critically thinking about this.
Joe Rogan is the gateway drug for young men that thought they were Democrats to become MAGA. Joe Rogan is the bridge. And on that bridge, they'll see RFK.
He didn't just question the lawsuit. He dragged the whole situation through the mud. So now we've got legal fire, celebrity clapbacks, TV personalities under fire, and a podcast king stirring the pot even more. And somehow, this mess is still unfolding. This whole mess just turned into a brutal masterclass in what not to say on live TV. And Joe Rogan made sure everyone got the message loud and clear. He didn't pull up for a debate, didn't need no panel showdown. Instead, he lit it up from his podcast throne, dropping facts, sarcasm, and straight-up roast sessions like only Rogan can. And let's be real, When Rogan speaks, folks listen. He backed Charlie Kirk without flinching. This wasn't a maybe he has a point situation. This was a full throttle endorsement of the lawsuit, point by point. Rogan made it clear. This was bigger than TV beef. This was about accountability. In his eyes, The View stopped being a talk show and started acting like a circus where real topics get drowned out by who can yell the loudest. And if anyone needed to take that heat, Rogan said it plain.
USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked.
The View, especially Sunny Hostin, is where things went sideways. But instead of trying to hash it out on air, Rogan did what he does best. He used his own turf, that massive podcast platform, to air it all out with a savage twist. He picked the whole situation apart like a mechanic tearing down a busted engine. First up, that $100 million lawsuit. To some, it looked over the top, but to Rogan, it screamed one thing. Serious damage had been done. This wasn't just TV drama. This was a courtroom-level mistake with real consequences. But how did The View react? Like it was just another petty tabloid headline. No urgency, no accountability, just smug grins and business as usual. According to Rogan, that right there was the problem. They treated the lawsuit like background noise when in reality it was a legal earthquake. And then came the knockout punch. The View brands itself as a space for informed discussion. But according to Rogan, what really went down sounded more like gossip hour at a high school lunch table.
Gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men actually voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or
Bold claims flying around with no solid receipts? That's not analysis, that's just dangerous. He said watching them was like watching a doctor give you a diagnosis based on a horoscope. Wildly reckless, totally careless, and definitely not how serious matters should be handled. Now here's the twist that really hit hard. Sunny Hostin, yes, the one with the law degree, the supposed voice of legal reason on the show, is now allegedly the one who might have crossed a serious legal line. That's not just ironic. That's straight up wild. Rogan didn't miss that chance. He called it out with brutal precision. The one person meant to keep things grounded is now knee-deep in controversy. You couldn't script this better if you tried. It's like reality TV met courtroom drama and collided live on national television. And let's not forget, Rogan's takedown wasn't just some stiff legal commentary. Nah, he came with fire. Sarcasm, side-eyes, and savage comparisons had people laughing, cringing, and replaying clips just to catch it all. This wasn't just commentary, it was a full-on demolition. Joe Rogan straight up roasted The View for their loud confidence and how little of it was backed by actual facts. He didn't just call them out, he clowned the whole setup, painting the show as a legal time bomb, ready to blow the second someone said the wrong thing. What used to look like bold, edgy commentary, Rogan made it clear. It now looks more like reckless chaos just waiting to catch a lawsuit. And here's where it gets real deep.
Would be her. If I saw her, I'd give her a hug. I'd probably say the same thing about me if I was her. You're worried about losing your job, and you're worried about podcasts taking over, and who's the source of news. And we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us, and he won, and this is fucking great. And Joe Rogan.
This might not just be about The View. Rogan hinted this could change daytime TV forever. That off-the-cuff, no-filter vibe that made shows like The View so addicting, it might start disappearing fast if hosts start thinking, could this get me sued? Imagine your favorite talk shows suddenly getting quiet, hosts hesitating before popping off. because one wrong word could trigger $1 million legal war. But Rogan didn't stop at just dragging the view. He zoomed out and took aim at the whole media game. He pointed to something way bigger, the shift in power. Podcasts, independent voices, creators who don't need corporate filters, they're not just part of the conversation anymore. They're leading it. And Rogan's podcast? Yeah, it's like the new courthouse of public opinion.
Is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in, you know, and they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her. And, you know, they did that with Meghan McCain and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's just, it's a bizarre show. I think the way before you start, I think the way you described it is brilliant. And the way we should all look at it. Of course, you're going to see race. The idea of being colorblind is ridiculous, but treat everybody. They're just human beings.
So when Joe Rogan, the king of keeping it raw, steps up and backs a lawsuit while torching a major TV show's entire reputation, that's a sign. A sign that old school media better get it together or get left behind. His takedown of Sunny Hostin wasn't some polite critique either. It was a full-blown media wrecking ball. He exposed cracks in The View's whole foundation like it was made of glass. Rogan didn't come in to debate. He came in swinging, mixing street-smart jokes with cold legal logic like a beast on a mission. He called it what it was. The View had become less about informed debate and more like a rumor mill with fancy chairs, throwing out wild accusations about Charlie Kirk with no receipts. That's not commentary, that's playing legal Russian roulette. Rogan compared it to someone juggling flaming swords blindfolded. Looks wild for a minute, but you know it's gonna end in disaster. And the biggest red flag? Sunny Hostin herself, a trained lawyer, someone who should know how dangerous careless speech can be on live TV. But apparently when the cameras roll, the legal logic goes out the window. Rogan tore into that contradiction like a stand-up comic catching a crooked politician in a lie.
Show, but it's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch them.
It's good.
Well, they're just, you know, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
You know, that's sort of I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart, but captured.
Sure. I think she came into it with an agenda.
Of course.
You know.
They do everything.
Except this time, the joke came with legal consequences. Then came the sarcasm, and it was top tier. Rogan shredded The View with gold-level mockery, calling them out as a clumsy crew tossing accusations around like it's New Year's Eve. Fun at first, but the confetti turns to trash real quick, and now someone's got to sweep it all up in court. His wasn't just comedy for clout. Joe Rogan's roast came with teeth. His jokes weren't throwaway punchlines. They were sharp, deliberate jabs that exposed the cracks in The View's so-called truth-telling. By dragging Sunny Hostin's comments into the spotlight and calling out the absurdity of the whole situation, Rogan flipped the narrative. Suddenly, folks started asking a new question. Was Charlie Kirk actually the victim here? Instead of looking like the villain, Kirk started getting sympathy. As someone caught in the crossfire of reckless media hype. And The View? Instead of being seen as brave truth seekers, they started looking more like a defamation disaster waiting to happen. That's the power of Rogan's platform.
View because I just thought it was funny.
What's
That's
the
the
View?
only reason I read that about me.
Dragon
View?
lover.
The radio,
All right, tell me
Joy
what this is.
Behar was trying to say that I believe in dragons.
Wait, what is this? I just
She
heard
said,
about
I
it.
checked it. I checked it. And the lady goes, did you double check this? She goes, I checked it. He believes in dragons.
Should be like
you think they lived
Sasquatch,
alongside of
bitch.
people? Like,
Wait,
it was from a wildlife biologist who came on my podcast. It was from Forrest Gallant. Galante? Gallant. How do I say his last name? Great guy. I love him.
Yeah.
He's
One roast, packed with facts, sarcasm, and clarity, shifted public opinion fast. Rogan didn't just mock the $100 million lawsuit for being over the top. He asked the question no one on daytime TV wanted to touch. How careful should these hosts be when they talk about public figures? Because clearly some of them treat it like a game show. Buzz in with the hottest take and pray it trends. And the irony? Woo. A podcast king, someone mainstream media used to side-eye as a loose cannon, is now the one delivering a cautionary tale to The View about responsibility. Rogan's no-nonsense breakdown wasn't just for the LOL. It was a red flag waving in the face of daytime talk shows. Reckless talk show real consequences. This whole firestorm might be remembered as the turning point. The moment when talk shows realized they couldn't just say anything without checking their facts. Rogan's viral takedown made it clear. If you treat serious accusations like clickbait, you might just end up writing million-dollar checks. Now imagine this. Daytime hosts pausing mid-rant, checking their notes twice, eyes darting like, wait, is this legally safe? Not because their producers told them to, but because lawyers are watching like hawks. This lawsuit could turn into the rulebook no one asked for, but everyone better start following. Especially when politics, celebrity, and culture are crashing into each other like a demolition derby on live TV. No more throwing accusations like confetti and hoping no one notices.
Right after she was saying, we are run by ABC News, you should trust us, not Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. So she by saying we should trust them because they're double checked by ABC News, and then making the stupidest fucking statement. Like you didn't listen to what I said.
Yeah.
You didn't listen to what the wildlife biologist, and that's only a part of what he said.
I can't
the
believe
other
Joy
part of what he
Behar
said
didn't
was
weigh.
there was something before that where he was explaining encounters with giant reptiles. I mean,
don't
there's
know.
also listen.
It doesn't make sense to me
There-
that a middle-aged woman could be dumb.
When you're worried about losing your job and you're worried about podcasts taking over.
The game is changing and the media world is feeling it. And let's not ignore the bigger shift here. Joe Rogan's role proves that independent media ain't just sitting on the sidelines anymore. His reach is massive, and when someone like Rogan steps into the fight, takes a clear stance, and publicly drags a legacy TV show, that's a whole new level of influence. It signals that corporate-controlled networks are losing grip on public opinion. The audience is shifting, tuning in elsewhere, where raw, unfiltered talk isn't just louder but more trusted. That's a major flex. But here's the twist. Will this lawsuit boomerang? These massive legal plays can be like a poker game gone wild. One wrong move and you're not just losing money, you're handing over power. If The View pushed too hard, it could spark a wave of lawsuits from people who've had enough of reckless talk. And suddenly, everyone's afraid to speak up. But here's the kicker. If Charlie Kirk's lawsuit ends up crashing and burning, it could send the opposite message. That big media can keep pushing wild narratives without any consequences. That reckless talk doesn't need to be fact-checked, and that's a dangerous game to play. We're standing right at the edge of something major, a showdown between free speech and real accountability. This isn't just another media scuffle. This could shape the future of how public figures and talk shows handle every hot topic from here on out. Legal experts are already predicting more drama on the way, court filings, countersuits, and maybe even bombshell witnesses or evidence that could flip the whole script.
Audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, but a lot of them are paid. They're paid to be there. So, because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire. And when a show gets really, really popular, you know, like Letterman or something like that, obviously it has its own fan base.
Right.
And those people will try to get tickets before anybody else does. And in that case, they probably don't need to use a service anymore. They just get actual fans. But arguably, like the real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point. Most of those people can't leave the house. Like they're probably
Right.
Social media is already in overdrive. Rogan's name is trending, Charlie Kirk's lawsuit is making shockwaves, and the heat around The View keeps rising. More and more independent voices are chiming in, and honestly, it feels like the start of a whole new media era. One where big names can't just talk wild and walk away without someone checking them. One thing's for sure. This fight won't be handled quietly behind the scenes. This isn't going to disappear with a hush-hush agreement and a PR statement. This is raw, messy, unpredictable drama, and the public's eating it up. So now we're all asking, will The View finally take responsibility for how it handles real issues on air? Will this mess finally push them to rethink the way they talk about people? Or will Joe Rogan keep turning up the heat, leading the charge for a whole new media standard? One where facts matter and careless words cost? That silence from The View and Sunny Hostin? Yeah, it's loud. Meanwhile, Kirk's lawsuit keeps shaking things up. And it's no longer just about the cash, it's about setting a new tone. Maybe, just maybe, this battle will make media personalities hit pause before tossing out reckless claims. Or maybe things get even more wild. Every lawsuit turns into a viral circus. Every hot take ends up in court. And every daytime segment feels like the next episode of a live legal drama. So, what do you think? Will talk shows start thinking twice before popping off? Or will this be the beginning of a full-blown media war, led by independent voices like Rogan who aren't afraid to call it out? However it plays out, this is one ride we're all buckled into now. Daytime TV just got way spicier. And with Rogan out here roasting legal experts, defending lawsuits, and flipping the media game upside down, we're just getting started. If you're here for every twist, every clapback, and every courtroom cliffhanger, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. This story is far from over, and trust us, you won't want to miss a single